In the first part of this episode, we focused on the wealth problem exclusively. We talked about what exactly is the wealth problem, and I tried to get you to understand that you are already as wealthy as you could ever be. You are the wealthiest that you could ever be. And I know sometimes this thing sounds like crazy talk. Yeah, I know it kind of sounds like crazy talk. I had a hard time with that fact, that statement. You are already as wealthy as you could ever be. I personally had a hard time with it. I had to sit down and come into an understanding of it. And part of the process that I had to go through to understand it was that I had to be able to tell the difference between riches and wealth. I had to sit down to educate myself on the difference between what does it mean to be rich and what does it mean to be wealthy. Now, if I am already as wealthy as I could ever be, what should I be looking for in my life? What is present in my life or what is lacking in my life? I started to understand what is the cause of the wealth problem. For the second part of this episode, the wealth problem, we would be focusing on the solution rather than the definition of the wealth problem. We did the definition, we had an in-depth talk on the wealth problem in the first episode, but for this episode, we would rather be focusing on just solutions. I am very much a solution person, and without any further delay, let's jump into having this conversation. I was once asked that how is it possible that wealth is the requirement for life? There is no scientific evidence anywhere to support that notion, that idea that wealth is a requirement for life. So I sat down and I said to them, I was like, think of a child in their mother's womb. Think of a baby forming in the womb of its mother. A baby in the womb of its mother lacks nothing. They have everything. That's a clear example that you are not born into wealth, you are born wealthy. It's a very clear example. In fact, it's the clearest anyone could ever give you. You are not born into wealth, you are born wealthy. It is from that place of wealth, it is from that place of being born wealthy. That is why children think that they can have whatever they want. It does not make sense to a child, especially one just coming of age, between the ages of 1, 2, 3, who is still getting used to the world. It does not make sense to a child at first when you tell them that you cannot have this thing. I cannot afford this thing. Because they are aware of wealth. They still have that connection to life. They still have that connection to life, that connection to the divine, that connection to the creative field that tells them that you already have everything. Children are still kind of connected, tethered to that field. So it doesn't make any sense for them to come here and now start, oh, you cannot have that toy, you cannot eat this, you cannot have that, don't do this. It doesn't make any sense to the child. Why? They should not be able to have the things that they want because they were born wealthy. They are conscious of the fact that they were born wealthy. When I was a child, along the way, I figured out that people exchange paper for goods. Yeah, somewhere along the line, I figured out that, in order to get what I want, and I think at that age, I wanted a biscuit or something, and I figured out that you have to give something to get something. So what I did was I went into my room and I tore paper and I tore it into rectangular shapes and I designed it a bit, and I literally went to my mom to exchange it for a biscuit. Yeah, I actually did. I went to my mom and I was like, give me biscuit, and she just laughed and she laughed, and I stood there. I wasn't really feeling stupid, but I was trying to understand why that did not work. It was supposed to work. It's paper. And I know I'm not the only one that did that or that grew up asking that question. Sorry, money is paper. Why can't you accept this paper as currency. That's something we need to ask the government. But truly though, you are already as wealthy as you could ever be. You really are already as wealthy as you could ever be. That division, that idea that you have to work for wealth, you either have to be born into wealth or you have to work for your wealth, is something that originates from the chaos of life itself. We already know that we can't do anything against this chaos. Life itself is largely chaotic, but then at the end of the day, it is left for you as the individual to be able to understand your identity. If you're familiar with the saying, order at chaos, order out of chaos, in every chaos there is a secret order. Guess who is that order? Yeah, in every chaos there is a secret order. To the chaos that is life itself, there's a secret order. Guess who is that order? That order is you. That order is your individuality. That order is your identity. That order is a part of the chaos that has not forgotten who it is. It is the part of the chaos that knows exactly what it wants and who it is. That is you. When wrestling with the chaos of life that is attempting to make you forget who you are, what you want, and basically you are supposed to think of yourself as a leaf in the wind, remember that you are the tree itself. You are not the leaf. And it's going to be really difficult to uproot you. Yeah, it's really going to be difficult to uproot you. And honestly, that is not what life is about. Yeah, I was born in a family where I was brought up to the idea that everything is literally just against me. It's either the devil is after me or the spirit of the strong man of my father's house or something. It's basically everything in life is against me, and it's a guarantee that I was going to fail. And basically, the only way that I would succeed was by running into church and all of that stuff. Yeah, I was brought up in that kind of environment. But along the way in life, I figured out that that is actually not true. It's quite the opposite. The chaos of life, the chaos that we go through in life, has nothing to do with us per se. It's not about us. It's about you remembering who you are. It's about you understanding that you are not the leaf that is blown to the left, that is blown to the right, that is blown. No, it kind of looks like that. It kind of looks like all the challenges that we go through in life is meant to destabilize us, or it's meant to uproot us, and just it looks like that. It feels like that. If you've ever seen a tree in a storm, 1 minute it looks like that tree would be uprooted, but then your root has to be firmly planted in your identity, in your originality, in your ancestry, for you to recognize that you are not the leaf that keeps blowing from left to right. You are the whole tree itself. The whole point of life is not to destabilize you, it's not to fight you, but rather is to understand that you are the secret order in chaos. I don't know, why are we talking about chaos when we should be focusing on the world problem? Because chaos is the cause of the world problem. Chaos is what creates that illusion that you have a world problem. There's something lacking in your life. And a lot of us are not taught to truly recognize that you are not the leaf blowing in the wind. You are the whole tree itself. You are part of that chaos. In you, there's identity. In you, there's personality. In you, there's authenticity. That is the order that is required, that is present in every chaos. Order at chaos. In every chaos, there is a secret order. That order is you. Why should you solve the world problem for yourself? Yeah, why should you solve the world problem for yourself? It's quite simple, really. You see, the point of the world problem created by the larger society is to create that sense of lack, that sense of competition, that sense of restlessness. Now, think of it this way. If you were not restless, you would not chase. If you did not chase, you will not be stressed. If you were not stressed, you will not fall ill. If you did not fall ill, there will be no need to go to the hospital. If there were no need to go to the hospital, you will still have enough money left with you. If you didn't need money, you will not hustle. You get the point. It's almost as if once you are disconnected from the idea that you are already as wealthy as you could ever be, an artificial kind of interconnected experience is created for you. But in this other artificial sense of interconnected experiences, you are supposed to be going from lack to lack. Like, there's that cycle. It's a rat race, really. The whole point of the world problem that was created by the society is to put you in that state of lack, that state of restlessness, that state of I do not have, I need all the time. If you do not solve the world problem for yourself, you will be manipulated. If you do not solve the world problem for yourself, you will be manipulated. And the weird part of this statement that I just made is this. Literally every aspect of your life or any aspect of your life is an opportunity for you to be manipulated because you have a world problem. The world problem is particular in its ability to create that sense of inadequacy. A very clear example of us as people being manipulated is this. It's that thing that brands do where they spend $10 manufacturing a product. They spend $10 manufacturing a product, but then they come to sell that product to you and I for almost $10,000 to $1,000. It totally doesn't make sense. We both know that it does not make sense why anybody will spend $10 making a thing only to sell it for $1,000, only to sell it for $10,000 in the name of branding. And the only excuse that they could offer for that thievery, because these days it's almost as if being an entrepreneur is a very stylish way of committing a crime without being caught. Honestly, being an entrepreneur these days is being marketed, or there's an undertone to saying it's the legal way to steal money. Because it totally doesn't make sense why a brand would manufacture a product for $10 only to sell it for $10,000. You will be manipulated when you do not solve the world problem. When you do not know within yourself, you are already enough within you. You are already enough. So, moving on, how do you identify areas of your life where you have a world problem? This one is a little difficult and it's a little tricky, really, and I'm going to try as much as possible to make it simple because I know that simpler the answer, the better. To be able to tell which area of your life that you are having a world problem, you have to look for areas of your life where you largely feel inadequate. And there's a very good chance that if you are feeling inadequate in that aspect of your life, you are being manipulated already. There's a very good chance that if you can identify an area of your life where you largely come off as inadequate, you're already being manipulated. Because something very interesting about the world problem is the fact that oftentimes the world problem is not a problem itself, it's something that we are all supposed to accept and get into that mindset, get in line. But then you're going to reach a certain stage in your life where it begins to affect you negatively. So much suffering and so much pain that you automatically just have to wake up and address the problem. What areas of your life are you feeling inadequate but should not be inadequate? You are not enough. You are sold the idea. Someone keeps putting the idea in your head that you need to do more. You need to give more of yourself, more of your time, more of your... there's a very good chance that that is the area of your life where you are experiencing the world problem. Yeah, the world problem is not about finances. It's about every aspect of your life and how they balance each other out. And when they do not balance each other out, when there is no clear give and take, there's no clear exchange, that is an indication that you are having a world problem in that aspect of your life. I really want to talk about how do you solve the world problem. Know who you are. Yeah, you really have to know who you are, because honestly, if you go through life not knowing who you are, not having an understanding of yourself, where you stand, what you believe in, and all of that stuff, you're going to be prone to manipulation. The world is surprisingly a sad place, and people do all the right things for the wrong reasons and the wrong things for the right reason, and that's basically just stupid. But you really have to know who you are. You have to have that sense of identity. You have to have a positive relationship with yourself. You need to know your origin. You need to know your roots. You need to know, why am I the way that I am? The level of self-awareness enough to create that sense of identity is basically what you need. Know who you are. Because when you do not know who you are, when faced with the chaos that is life itself, that chaos that typically would create that sense of a lack of wealth in your life. Something very interesting that I have found is this: if you have ever practiced the demon summoning or something like that, you would find that for every summoning you have to do, you have to call your name. Yeah, as a magician or something, you have to call your name. It's almost like an introduction, and it's like crazy or something. You have to call your name. When you don't call your name, when you don't know who you are, then there's a problem. Also, you have to know the name of the demon or whatever you are summoning. The point I'm trying to make is this: when faced with the challenges of life, you have to know your name. Otherwise, if you were to get lost, if you were to lose that sense of identity, that sense of self, that sense of awareness, you've lost everything else. Understand this: you are not the leaf blowing in the wind, you are the entire tree itself. When life knocks you left, right, up, down, in every way and every shape possible on the surface of this planet, when faced with the chaos that is life itself, that typically should be normal, should be every day. I mean, life is chaotic, we're supposed to accept this thing, but when faced with that chaos and you've had about enough of it, this level, put your 2 feet on the ground, make sure your feet is connected to the ground, and you say your name. Just say your name. Believe me, it works 100%. I told you about a friend of mine that challenged life and he won life. Now, he told me that he was having a couple of challenges. Everything just wasn't really going his way, and he was frustrated. In fact, he said that, bro, I really contemplated suicide at that point, because that was how far I was willing to go. Running out of options, he locked himself in his room and made sure to close the windows, close everywhere. Then he got naked. Yeah, he said he got naked right there in the center of his room. And as he got naked, he called his name and he called God. He called God and he challenged God, and he was like, this cannot be it. I have done this, I have done that, I have done that, I have done this. Why isn't it working out for me? He said that he took the time to pour out his heart. He took the time to remember everything that he has been through with regards to the problem that he was facing. He literally just took his time standing before God to really just state what he has done, his claims. And when he was done pouring out his frustration, when he was done crying, when he was done being the victim, he said one thing. He said, help me. He said, I am tired. I cannot continue. I don't know what to do. This is not the promise that you promised me. Help me. Like, literally, just help me. If you cannot help me, then nobody else can get me out of this problem. He said after doing that, he slept off. He woke up, took a shower, and just went about his day. I guess in his head, he said to himself that it wouldn't be long now before he eventually would just give up and decide to end his life. But after doing that, a couple of days after that, things just started to pick up magically. And the funny part of the whole story is this. He said the things that he did in the past, and he tried everything to make things work, did not work. Nothing worked out. The answers just came out of nowhere, and everything just started to sort itself out on its own. Gradually, everything started to sort itself out on its own. It was almost as if there was a system, or there was somebody that was handling his issues and took it personally for him. He said that people he did not know from anywhere were just helping him, and before you knew what was happening, in less than a month, the whole issue that he was facing, the whole challenge that he was facing was done. I have also experienced something like that. I've also been pushed by life to my breaking point, where I stood at the center of my room and I said, Aya, God, devil, making a come. Although I don't think I was naked for that. Was I naked for that? No, I don't think I was naked for that. I stood at the center of my room and was like, I have had just about this level. Of course, I said my name. I don't know, but we can't continue like this. I remember very clearly that after doing that, there was this clarity that came over me. It was like, for the first time in my life, for the first time since I started having that challenge, everything just made sense. I can't explain it, but there was this clarity that just dumped into my head. And I'm not the only one. My friend said the same thing. He was like, he just got this sense of peace. I was like, okay, I'm going to leave this problem for some time to just run its course. And if it eventually works out, I would pick back where I was or something. I would pick up on what I was about to do anyway. For me, when I stamped my 2 feet on the ground and I said my name and I invited God and the devil to have a conversation, I was like, if you cannot help me with this problem, this is the end. I got this sense of clarity. I got that sense of harmony. It was like being able to see every aspect of your life, just getting that overview. That problem solved itself. Believe me when I say, when faced with the challenge, with the chaos that is life itself, all you need to do is remember your name. All you need to do is know who you are. That's basically all you need to do. Remember your name, like, know who you are. We forget our names a lot. We forget our identity. We forget who we are. It's part of the chaos. It's part of the world's problem. It's the trick. You forget. You just simply need to know who you are. The second thing that you need to do to solve the world's problem is understand that it is your right, it is your responsibility to be rich. There is nothing wrong with riches. There's literally nothing wrong in being able to afford what you want, what you need. There's nothing wrong. In fact, riches is one of the most, I wouldn't say fundamental, but I would say natural part of life. Yeah, of course, an aspect of life and nature is both circumstantial and superficial. What this means is that there will always be that give and take, trade, barter, and all of that. Even animals understand how to give certain things to gain certain things. There is nothing wrong in you being rich. There is no reason why you should not be rich. You should be able to afford the things that you want to afford. And if for some reason you are not able to afford, have it at the back of your mind that one day you will be able to afford it. You are definitely going to be able to afford it. Understand this. What you should not do is say to yourself, because you are having financial challenges, because you are not able to afford the things or the life that you want right now, to mean that you are not wealthy. That is what you should not do. There's a very good reason why you should not do this. You see, I said that riches is part of life. There's always that aspect of nature that is superficial. In fact, if you think of riches as a season in life, think of riches as a season where all your needs and want is being met. You are able to afford whatever you want. You are able to afford certain things that you need. You are able to afford to pay your bills. You are able to afford. That is a season. But then you understand that every season does not last. There is no season on the surface of this earth that lasts. Every season does not last. There's always the opposite side or the other season to go to. And that is the problem that most of us have with riches. It is its inability to be stable, to kind of maintain a perfect straight line. Each and every one of us want to be rich and stay rich. Nobody wants to be rich and go broke, rich and go broke, rich and go broke, which is perfectly understandable, which is perfectly part of the rhythm of life. Yeah, which is perfectly part of the rhythm of life. But we don't enjoy that dance with life. At the beginning of the month, you're super rich because you just got paid. By the end of the month, you're back to being broke and counting your bills. At the beginning of the month, you've paid all your bills and you just got enough change to survive. By the end of the month, you're back to being broke. It's kind of like a rhythm, a dance, a season, and we do not enjoy these things. I do not enjoy it, by the way, but understand that it's part of life. It's a rhythm, it's a pattern to your life. In fact, if you are not the kind of person that can take a pen and paper and draw the pattern of your riches, the pattern of your seasons in life, I would largely say that you are not an intentional person. I can draw the pattern of my season throughout the year. There are certain patterns that occur in our lives, and it has been occurring. Unless you change something fundamental, unless you decide that, man, I'm going to break this pattern. But usually those patterns exist, and you should be the scientist of your own life. Yeah, you really should be the scientist of your own life. Observe your own self, observe your own pattern, observe your own tendency. There is nothing wrong with being rich. The whole point of this talk is not to tell you that, oh, riches is bad. You should not chase riches. No. If you're going to chase riches, it should not be from a place of lack. Think of it this way. To have a fuller experience in life, riches is required. In wealth, there is riches. As crazy as it sounds, understand this. You really have to know this from a very personal place. Everything that we've talked about on this episode, on the wealth problem, you really have to know it from a personal place. That is how you make the change that is needed. There is nothing wrong in being rich. You should not apologize for being rich, for being able to afford certain things. But at the same time, you should not feel bad or look down on yourself or come to the conclusion that you are not wealthy because you are not able to temporarily afford certain things. It's a balance. It's a very unique balance, and you have to be mentally and emotionally healthy to maintain that balance. The moment you tip off, that is the zone of the wealth problem, and you do not want to be in that zone because it's a cycle and you just keep running. The last time. This is the last and final thing you need to do to solve the wealth problem. You need something that you trust in. I don't want to use the word belief. Yeah, I try as much as possible not to use the word belief. I would rather use the word trust. You see, in the game of life, a lot of us think that it's all about who you believe in. You either believe in God, the devil, or science, or something like that. But it's really not about belief. It's actually about trust. It's not about belief. It's about trust. Know this. Remember when I said, especially in the first episode, where I said that how do you give something that is not yours to give? How do you give something that is not yours to give? How do you find something that is not lost? You need to have something that you trust in, because that is where the source of wealth comes from. You need to have a particular philosophy or ideology to life. You have to have a very special relationship with life to truly be wealthy. From that philosophical, psychological, spiritual, whatever perspective, that is how life makes sense to you. And it is in the making of sense in life that is how you find harmony, that is how you find peace. You need to have something, you need to be connected to something that you trust in, not believe. That you trust in, not believe. Trust is stronger than belief. Yeah, the funny thing about belief is that belief is prone to change. In fact, belief is like begging to be changed. Belief is like begging that your opinions be changed. That is how belief actually is. Now, let me ask you a question if you're going to argue. Do you believe the same things that you believed 10 years ago? No. You don't believe the same things that you believed 10 years ago. And if for some reason, as a person, you believe exactly the same things that you believed 10 years ago, you are not a person of growth, of expansion. You probably don't read a lot. There's no reason why anybody should believe exactly the same things that they believed 10 years ago. Like, why should you do that? Our belief changes with the more experiences that we get in life. With the more proof. Belief is like hypothesis or something. It's supposed to change as you grow, as you become a better person with more experience, with more experiment that you take in life. It's supposed to literally just grow and change and become into something beautiful. But trust, on the other hand, is basically like saying to a person, this is my life, do whatever you want. Trust is basically like handing over a blank check and asking a person to put whatever figure that they want in it. That is trust. You don't care what the outcome is going to be. You don't care whether it is right or wrong. You don't care whether you're going to land in heaven or land in hell. You literally do not care. All you know is that from a place of knowing, from a place of intentionality, this is what you trust. This is what you know. This is what you are comfortable with. This is what makes sense to you. That is why I said you need to have something that you trust in. Whether you trust in God or you trust in science, it really does not matter. You need to have something that you trust in, because that is how you access wealth. Even when life isn't going the way that it's supposed to go, have something that you trust in. That is how you find wealth. Every religion, every philosophical movement, every idea on the surface of this earth is channeled towards helping us find the answer, helping us finding that harmony, that peace that we hunger for in life. I guess you could say that every aspect of human evolution, every aspect of human knowledge is trying to find that same thing that we all hunger for, and that is wealth. We want to have the answers to life so that life makes sense. The more life makes sense to us, the more wealthy we are. Wealth is literally just the answer that science is looking for. Wealth is just the answer that we are all looking for. Wealth. That is why I say belief will change. Trust. You should know. You should have a first-hand experience. You should know why. You should know why you would give your heart to somebody, trusting that they will not squash it. Why? Trust. And this brings us to the end of this episode on the wealth problem. We've talked about a lot of things on this episode. We talked about how chaos is the cause of that illusion that we experience, that sense of lack in our life. We talked about why you should solve the wealth problem, and the major reason why you should solve the wealth problem is so that you will not be manipulated. We also talked about how you can solve the wealth problem in your life. You can solve the wealth problem in your life by having that sense of identity, knowing who you are, and having something that you really trust in, not believe in. Now, the thing is this. When I solved the wealth problem for myself, I was going through a terrible time. And it was almost as if the universe put a pause in my life for me to figure out that I had a wealth problem. In every area of my life, I just could not keep up. I just could not meet up. And there was literally just chaos enough for me to just raise my hands up and say, I know they do again, like I am no longer doing this anymore. But once I figured out the world's problem, I started to come into new understanding of certain things. I started to be able to identify my power. What I mean by power is this: it is impossible for you to lack everything in life. It is not possible for any one individual to lack everything in life. If one aspect of your life is going bad, check the other aspect of your life and check to see if you can balance off the other aspect of your life that is not performing really well with the aspect of your life that works really well. And by the time I figured out the world problem, that wealth is the answer to my problems, I figured out that it is more about harmony and interconnectedness and not about perfection. It's really not about perfection. It's about harmony and interconnectedness. When one aspect of your life isn't working, check out for other aspects of your life and be able to, from that place of knowing, from that place of abundance, balance off the aspect of your life that isn't working well. By solving the world problem for myself, I was able to free myself from anxiety. I was able to free myself from anxiety, especially because I struggled with social anxiety in the past. I was able to free myself from anxiety. I was able to find that peace that I needed in the moment, enough to make conscious, intentional decisions, and decisions from a place of abundance that ultimately paid out well in my life. In fact, looking back in my life, I can't believe that I am that person that had a scarcity mindset. I cannot believe it is almost impossible for me to align that person that I was in the past with regards to how I made decisions, how I was intentional in the past. I was not intentional in the past. I was not present in the past. I basically had a scarcity mindset. Everything was a problem for me because I had the wealth problem. I was largely a very negative person, mostly. But once I figured out that I had the wealth problem and the solution to this problem is wealth, I was able to become a more positive person. I was able to come at solving problems from an abundance mindset, from a positive mindset, from the mindset of you already have it. You are not trying to have it. You already have it. And it was surprising how life, the universe, just kept supplying everything that I needed. And it's crazy. Come into a personal understanding of this. You are already as wealthy as you could ever be. Just trust me on that. You are already as wealthy as you could ever be. A few questions that you could ask yourself is this: why am I already as wealthy as I could ever be? If I am already as wealthy as I could ever be, why do I experience problems in certain aspects of my life? How can I become more wealth conscious? Ask yourself those questions. Come in, give a very personal answer. In fact, there is no right or wrong answer here. There is just your answer, and there's just you. And this is very much about you.